Welcome to my online class. How are you, everyone? I think you all are safe and sound by the grace of Almighty Allah. You know, the second wave of COVID-19 is going on, so of course we have to follow all the safety measurement and try to put on mask and please be safe. This is Hasina Islam, lecturer, Department of English, Tonki Government College, Gazipur. This lecture is for the students of Honours first year. Today, we are going to start a new topic. Letter to Lord Chelmsford rejecting knighthood. The letter is written by Rabindranath Tagore, and today we are going to start this and we will try to know the summary of this lecture. So let's start our lesson. Everyone, this is Rabindranath Tagore, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1913 for his collection Gitanjali, published in London in 1912. Tagore returned his knighthood for service to literature, which he was awarded in 1915. That is, in 1915 he was awarded knighthood. In protest against the 1919 Amritsar massacre, he returned his knighthood. So first of all, we have to know the background. What are the reasons, or what is the cause why our great poet Tagore returned his knighthood? So the letter rejecting knighthood truly shows Tagore's patriotism, because he shows his patriotic zeal. He goes against British colonialism and points out the wrongdoing and brutal actions to common people of India, that is, which took place in 1919. So he wanted to show his protest, and he protested against this brutal action. It was absolutely a wrongdoing, and this great poet came to make his protest against it. His rejection of knighthood was one of the instances of indicating the tyranny of British rule in India. At that time, British ruler, they were very they were showing their tyrannic part, and this massacre was one of the parts of the incident. That is, this was very brutal. They killed the innocent people, and on 31st May in 1919, Tagore wrote his letter, this famous letter to Lord Chelmsford, the Viceroy of India, rejecting his knighthood. The letter rejecting knighthood truly shows Tagore's patriotism. He goes against British colonialism. First of all, you have to know some important questions, then we will start the text. Okay, so why did Tagore reject his knighthood? I have already discussed this. So what was the reason? He make his protest against these brutal activities. It was the main cause. Then when? In 1919. Okay. So here is the letter I am going to read out this letter, part of this letter by Rabindranath Tagore. Your Excellency, the enormity of the measures taken by the government in the Punjab for quelling some local disturbances has, with a rude shock, revealed to our minds the helplessness of our position as British subjects in India. Here he expresses his shock. The disproportionate severity of the punishments inflicted upon the unfortunate people and the methods of carrying them out, we are convinced, are without parallel in the history of civilized governments, bearing some conspicuous expectations, recent and remote. Considering that such treatment has been meted out to a population disarmed and resourcelessness. That is, at that time, the people of India, they were disarmed and very helpless by a power which has the most terribly efficient organization for destruction of human lives. We must strongly assert that it can claim no political expediency, far less moral justification. The accounts of the insults and sufferings by our brothers in Punjab have trickled through the jagged silence, reaching very corner of India. That is, its impact, it was spread all over India, and the universal agony of indignation roused in the hearts of our people has been ignored by our rulers, possibly congratulating themselves for what they imagine as salutary lessons. This callousness has been praised by most of the Anglo-Indian papers. Here he criticizes the Anglo-Indian newspapers. Those newspapers, praised these activities, which have in some cases gone to the brutal length of making fun of our sufferings. That is, it was of making fun of their sufferings without receiving the least check from the same authority. Relentlessly careful in smothering every cry of pain and expression of judgment from the organs representing the sufferers. That is, it was really a matter of shock. Knowing that our appeals have been in vain and that the passion of vengeance is blinding the nobler vision of statesmanship in our government. This is the letter. You have to take help from your textbook, and of course you will go through the letter again and again. Then it will be very helpful for you to know the meaning here. Okay. So at the very last part of this letter, he's saying, these are the reasons which have painfully compelled me to ask Your Excellency with due reverence and regret to relieve me of my title of knighthood. So here he described the causes why he wants to take a relief of his title, knighthood. Okay. Now I am going to give you a brief summary of this letter. And we all know about Rabindranath talent. He is a name that echoes with art, literature, history, culture, everywhere, And in 1915, Tagore received the prestigious award of knighthood by the British King George V in recognition of his literary talents. But he rejected the title in 1919 as a protest against the massacre of Amritsar when British troops killed some 400 Indian demonstrators, that is 400 people they killed. So the rejection of the title is one of the most important events in history that shows his nationalism and his patriotism. The massacre of Amritsar took place on 13 April 1919, and Tagore's reaction to the event was full of rage. On 31st May, that is, the incident took place in 13th April, and on 31st May he wrote this famous letter. Okay, so Tagore was greatly shocked at the brutality of the British rulers. His reaction against the mass killing by the British force to the disarmed and resourcelessness, these helpless people, and he expresses his sorrow, his anxiety through this letter, and his disappointment also. Tagore was highly moved by the sufferings of the Indian people at the hands of British rulers. He looked at the event and and said that such brutal event did not have any logic. It neither had political expediency nor moral justification. So there is no political reason, no moral justification. They will never be expose any political or moral justification. The impact of the massacre was immense, and he was given description of it. So he felt it very deeply, and that's why he expressed his disappointment here. So he the letter rejecting knighthood truly shows Tagore's patriotism. He goes against British colonialism. India was a colony. This subcontinent, actually, Indian subcontinent, was the colony of the British ruler, and he protests against this colonialism and these brutal activities here, and points out the wrongdoing and brutal actions to common people of India. His rejection of knighthood was one of the instance of indicating the tyranny of British rule in India. And his later rejecting knighthood is the testimony of protest against British Empire. The words of the letter will remind us his fierce voice against oppression by the British. So this is about this letter, and this is a very important topic, and you will try to read this letter from your textbook. And in my next lecture, I will give you some important questions from here, and of course I will try to start a new topic. Till then, everyone, thank you. Have a nice day.